Hello, namaskaram, namaskar. My name is Pooja Dwivedi. Welcome to my class. The Brics have admitted 6 new members. UAE, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia are amongst them. The membership will come into effect from 1st January 2024. This expansion was inevitable. Other than this, there are certain challenges that lie ahead. Also, from the perspective of India, right now the situation is pretty conducive to expand its bilateral as well as multilateral relations. From the perspective of GS mains paper second and preliminary perspective, it is important we understand this entire situation well. Moving on with the news, this is the news. Saudi Arabia, Iran, UAE, Egypt, Ethiopia, these are the certain countries, and Argentina, of course, that will be admitted to BRICS. They have been admitted, but the formalization will take place from 1st January 2024. This was all the outcome of the 15th BRICS summit that was chaired by South Africa. There are going to be certain challenges that are important for us to know. If you want the PDF of whatever I cover over here on the YouTube channel, you can be a guest at the Pooja Dwivedi UPSC as a subscriber. Please subscribe to my Telegram channel. Other than this, if you have any queries regarding this examination, you can talk to me through my Instagram as well. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday only said that we are in for expanding the BRICS. Earlier there were rumors and news as well that India is not happy with the way things are moving for BRICS. India wasn't happy with the number and the countries that are going to join BRICS. As we know that in BRICS, any decision, it has to be unanimous by consensus. Then only we can move forward with any sort of fundamental changes that we are doing. So when this was the news, but India went to the Johannesburg summit, the 15th summit, and said we are okay with the expansion. However, India did suggest that certain new initiatives have to be considered. Because as BRICS expand, there has to be certain areas which also have to expand. So India suggested that first all the BRICS countries should think about a space exploration consortium. Of course, India is now emerging as a leader, right? Because India is now consortium. India is now emerging as a leader in space technology with the soft landing of the Chandrayaan-3 on the south pole of the moon. It is of course imperative for India to make such calls. A space exploration consortium will help in developing India's position as a spacefaring nation and as a leader in spacefaring nation. Secondly, India suggested that we should make a portal for the BRICS countries like the Diksha portal so that language barrier can be overcome. A portal to overcome language barrier. Then it suggested that a toolkit should be developed for the BRICS nation to do the skill mapping of each and every country so that service exchange can take place easily. We not only have to ensure that we emerge when it comes to trade, but also to the services. So skill mapping tool. What skills are needed in the current situation? We should map that as well. Prime Minister Modi also suggested that every country of the BRICS is home to big cats. We need to ensure that we conserve biodiversity as well. So something with respect to biodiversity conservation has to be done. Biodiversity conservation. And finally, Prime Minister Modi said that a proper mechanism should be set for emerging countries to take care of traditional medicines as well. Traditional medicines which include in India, of course, the practices, the knowledge for Siddha and Unani, Ayurveda. These are all parts of the traditional medicines, and WHO also for the first time ever opened a traditional medicine center at Gandhinagar, India. So India is emerging as a leader on most of the parameters. So India is in the correct place, India is in the correct position to make certain suggestions. How to be relevant. Any institute has to be relevant from the perspective of changing times. And hence, India is trying to ensure that it is leading the global south when it comes to that. Now, the outcomes of the 15th BRICS summit are as such. The basic aim is to attract investment. More creation of assets, more employment opportunity, hence economic upliftment. Promoting collaboration and showcasing opportunities within South Africa and also BRICS countries. New development banks should play a greater role when it comes to infrastructural development and sustainable development in not only in Africa but the global south. 10th anniversary of the establishment of the BRICS Business Council was celebrated. Also, BRICS Women's Business Alliance and their first in-person engagement with leaders was also celebrated. This is the first in-person summit that is happening after the pandemic. Alright, there is global momentum for the use of local currencies. That means de-dollarization, not relying on dollars anymore. Why? Because of the weaponization of dollars through sanctions. Each and every country right now is pretty, we can say, threatened when it comes to Iran, China, even Brazil, even South Africa. Russia has already been sanctioned. So it has wreaked havoc for certain countries. That is why de-dollarization is also now a drive. So a local currency, an alternative financial mechanism in order to do trade. This has been touted by the 15th BRICS summit. It is being said that by the next summit, some kind of mechanism should develop so that we are not reliant on dollars. But which currency are we going to take? Is it really going to solve the problems? We'll see that. Further develop the BRICS partner country model and list of prospective partner countries. See, a model has to be created on the basis of which countries can become a part of BRICS. 40 countries actually showed interest that we want to be a part of the BRICS. 22 countries were there which formally applied for the BRICS membership. There wasn't a common ground on which all the 5 countries of the BRICS were saying, okay, let's do it. Let's admit these people into our new elite club. But thing is that since many years, since many days or months, we can say, there was a thorough discussion that was going on to admit the new countries. All right. So P2I batches we have launched from 23rd of August. Those of you who are interested in a one-stop solution for not only pre-mains interviews but also prelims test series, mains test series, daily answer writing practice, current affairs module, everything you can get it from the P2I batch. A mains residential program is also there for those students who are going to appear for UPSC 2024 mains. As in, if you have qualified the pre, then you will be called to the StudyIQ campus to prepare with us free of any extra charges. Lodging facilities, edible facilities, will everything be taken care of by us. Just you have to pay 29,999, because if you use the code PD Live, you will get it at 29,999. The classes have begun. Do not worry about the classes that you have missed. 23rd, just one day of classes. If you are going to take admission today, you will get live classes in a recorded format. But from tomorrow onwards, you will get your regular live classes. You will be able to interact with the teachers. I will also be teaching in these batches. So take this admission. Be sure that you use the code PD Live. Okay. Moving on. So this is the roadmap that we have to cover. I have already introduced you with certain things. Outcomes have been told. What India suggested has been told. Let's talk about BRICS. What is BRICS? Jim O'Neill, he was a British economist from Goldman Sachs. Now, he suggested that there is going to be a certain number of countries that are going to be economically very powerful. By the year 2050, their economic prowess will be something to look at. And these 4 countries were Brazil, Russia, India, and China. And he said that these 4 countries, because of their low labor cost, natural resources which are unexploited, demographic dividend, these countries are going to rule the world by 2050 when it comes to their economies. He never suggested that it is going to be a trading bloc. He never suggested that it is going to be a regional or political or military bloc. He said it is all going to be upon the economy. He coined this term, BRIC, in the year 2001. So it started getting or garnering more and more attention. Vladimir Putin played a huge role in making sure that an institution like this occurs. So, In 2009, the first ever summit, which was attended by the heads of state of Brazil, Russia, India, and China, it was done. And after that, in 2010, South Africa also joined because the economy of South Africa started gaining momentum back then. And it wanted to show that it can also be a part of BRICS. So in 2010, South Africa joined. Hence, we have BRICS now. Okay, Jim O'Neill coined the term. He was very interested in how BRIC will work. Russia initiated this creation. First ministerial meeting was held in 2006, but heads of state came only in the year 2009. When, of course, this was, a momentum started gathering itself, but the proper heads of state meeting was in 2009 in Yekaterinburg. This was all when things started gaining momentum. Moving on. The new members which have joined the BRICS include Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. So 6 plus 5, how much? 11. How many? 11. I do not at all endorse this map because this is Al Jazeera's map. We all know how Al Jazeera is with respect to the narration. So India's map over here is distorted. This is not our narrative. Neither do I endorse it. I completely condemn it. But because of the current news, this map was the best to show you which countries have joined. So now, as you can see, this particular map is going to show us that the orange, darker orange one, these are the current members, and the yellow ones are the ones who are going to become a member. Argentina, Ethiopia, Egypt, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Iran. Alright, let's move forward. Why does BRICS want to expand? This is the biggest question. BRICS since the very beginning wanted to ensure that it becomes a counterweight against the West, specifically the G7, which consists of very elite economies, including USA, Canada, France. But BRICS thought in order to ensure that we grow hefty, we need more people. So it started its expansion idea from then. Diversity is one of the biggest reasons right now. When the world is talking about inclusivity, when the world is talking about representation, acceptability, why can't the global south become a leader in that? Hence, to ensure diversity, to ensure that the old world order is challenged. Only the West is not responsible for the working of this world. It is the global south now. It is the era of the global south. It is the era of the already mistreated. It is the era of the forgotten. It is the era of everybody who aspires to become great in the future. And South Africa started like that only. And now it has grown. So, diversity. Competing with the G7. This is also one of the reasons. But the biggest reason right now is the weightage of economy of certain countries, it is decreasing. Chinese economic slowdown we are seeing. So it has pushed that in order to remain a relevant force in the economic scenario, we need more people. Then Russia's issue with Ukraine and the marginalization of Russian economy through sanctions, that is another thing. So G7, we have to compare right now BRICS with respect to G7. If we talk about the GDP, collective GDP, for BRICS it's 31.5%, almost 32 we can say. For G7 it's 30%. Rest of the world is 38.5. More countries will join. Of course, this will have a huge impact on the heft. Then we talk about the G7 and BRICS countries. How many countries? From America, from European countries, they have shown that only we are the elite group. We are the economy that deserve to be in a group, and the rest of the countries are not. So that is not correct. From the current situation, you can see the expanse of G7 is in Africa, is in South America, is in Africa, is in Asia and Eurasia. As you can see, a part of Russia. So that is why it is growing in diversity. We can say we are able to see diversity through this. Then if we talk about combined GDP in terms of trillions of dollars, for G7 it is $45 trillion, for BRICS it is $26.06 trillion. Now, if more countries will add, such as Saudi Arabia, UAE, you can imagine the kind of effect we can have. Then, population for BRICS it's 40%, G7 it's 10%. More representation, more skills, more demography, more demographic dividend. This is what BRICS is striving to be. Then, now let's talk about country basis of reasons. Kazakhstan and Algeria, why do these countries want to join BRICS? They aspire to become like South Africa in the fact that South Africa started as a country which was just emerging, and with the help of BRICS, it could get its influence on the world. It's an elite group right now. How South Africa joined it as a part of emerging economies, and then it became a part of elite group. This is what Kazakhstan and Algeria also want to do. See, whenever any country is a part of a group which is very favorable, its voice in the world is also heard. And BRICS has become a platform for that. So that is why Saudi Arabia and Iran, they are already very good when it comes to their economies. Iran is right now just coming back on its feet again. Saudi Arabia, of course, has a lot of impact economically. So it is beneficial not only for BRICS but also for Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia also wants to diversify its investment, its trading partners, and their relationship is now normalized. It is on the process of normalization. Things are looking good for them. So it becomes easier to coordinate among the BRICS. Finally, some economically established countries are interested in BRICS while playing both sides, as in they are also good for the Western partners and also for the BRICS. So they can also be a bridge like India is, but India also has to ensure that it remains one of the crucial bridges through BRICS as well. Right now, as Joe Biden said, that for him the most important country in the world is India. India will remain important for years to come from now. Moving on, if we talk about Egypt and Indonesia, they are trying to build ties with the BRICS members while still they are maintaining close relations with the USA because of their heft. And then there is Argentina. Argentina is already under a lot of debt. It is seeing that it has recently raised its interest rate to 118% to help curb rampant inflation that is going on there. So when it gets access to the new development bank of the BRICS, a lot of burden will be reduced. These are the reasons for these countries to join BRICS. With respect to Argentina, India, of course, has good trade relations with Argentina. Also, Argentina's, we have strategic partnership with it. Whenever there is a strategic partnership, it becomes easier to coordinate with that country to help that country get uplifted. Access to the new development bank, which is also known as the BRICS Bank, will help it curb its inflation and get the fund it needs. It wants to reduce the dependence on World Bank and IMF. Moving on. With Egypt, we have developed strategic partnership. The signature of it was done earlier this year only. Other than this, we have civilizational and cultural, historical relations with Egypt. Also, India is very interested in the Suez Canal. So, in order to ensure that India does trade with the Middle East, it has to ensure that it coordinates with the Middle East, even if it is through a multilateral platform like BRICS. So, there is bilateral and multilateral both. Ethiopia is one of the key partners in Africa. Specifically, right now, when Ethiopia is thinking about getting its own port, it is in talks with certain countries to have a port in the Indian Ocean. So this will be a way forward when it comes to India maintaining trade relations with Ethiopia as well. Ethiopia was supported and has been supported by India when it comes to Grand Renaissance Dam, when it comes to the Tigray region. So all these are actually in favor of India right now. Ethiopia has a good relation, economic relation with China. Despite this fact, India wants to remain open. India will find a huge market and India will become a huge market for either way. With Iran, we have had strategic partnership since 2003, but due to the sanctions of the USA, we had to curb our relations when it comes to the trading of energy. And India has developed the Chabahar port in Iran as well. It is very important because it shares a border with both Pakistan and Afghanistan. And for India, these two countries are very important. Also, in order to ensure that its Middle East effect remains in place, Iran is very important. That is why Iran's partnership is always and already welcomed. Also, Iran has been a part of Shanghai Cooperation Organization now, so that is also very important. India is trying to show we are not bound by the dictates of the West, and not only India, this is India's leadership when most of the countries are joining and flocking behind India, that it is able to maintain good relations with the West, not by reprimanding the Russians, not by saying things against Russians, but by its own economic weightage. Moving on. SCO was already joined by Saudi Arabia as a dialogue partner. Strategic partnership with India was developed in 2010. And also Strategic Partnership Council we created in 2019. Saudi Arabia is India's fourth largest trading partner as of 2022-23. We have a huge amount of diaspora in Saudi Arabia that helps us in getting foreign exchange as remittances. That is why it is important to maintain every sort of economic relations with Saudi Arabia and also the UAE. Abu Dhabi's Crown Prince visited India as a chief guest for India's Republic Day Parade or celebrations in 2017. Comprehensive strategic partnership has been developed, and in 2021, India participated in quadrilateral meeting alongside UAE. And hence, we got the I2U2. India, Israel, UAE and USA. So it is important for India to continue evolving along with the changes that are happening. Like UAE and Israel, their relationship is now bettering. And because of that, India wants to exploit the good relationship, of course, in a mutually beneficial way. Doubling the trade volume with China, but UAE is doubling the trade volume with China as compared to the USA. So India is very mindful of the fact that China is also trying to increase its influence in the Brics. But India is not insecure by it. So, you see, here is UAE and here is India. Moving on. Now, we have to understand that the current situation, will it lead to de-dollarization or not? Why these countries want de-dollarization? Countries such as Iran, Russia and China, they want to overthrow the king dollar. Their perspective is different. For India, it is better to trade in one's own currency, to have alternatives. So the thing is that here will be the challenge. How will India move forward when it comes to developing a mechanism when it wants to say to the USA, we don't want to, pay in dollars, or we do not want to abide by the dollarization process. So what kind of mechanism will be developed, and which currency would be better than dollar? Dollar has remained the king because of many reasons. We'll talk about that as well. So South Africa, Brazil and India, when they of course want an alternative currency, they do not want to anger the West. 26% of the GDP is going to be impacted, right? When we talk about 26% of the GDP, I'm talking about the current situation, 6 countries plus the 5 countries of Brics. If they say that we do not want to trade in dollars anymore amongst us, ourselves only, 26% of the GDP is actually represented by these 11 countries. That means 16% of the global trade as well. Any big impact, any serious attempt if it is made to overthrow the dollar will have ripple effect, good amount of effect it will have. But dollars has created an intensive network and convenience factor. It is easier to pay in dollars. Stability is a lot because of investors' confidence. Any other currency right now doesn't enjoy that. Also, deep dollar dominated markets. The thing is that dollar hasn't become the king just in recent times. It is since many decades. Also, there is a predictability, ease of use and lower cross-border transaction. That is why it is still the king. We have to see what countries do in order to overthrow it. So I hope you understood this topic well. I hope you will be able to produce a good answer when it comes to the necessity and challenges of expansion and the impacts it could have. I have also drawn parallels for you with respect to G7 and the Brics. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching and stay updated.